first thing my father-in-law said when I walked through his front door wasn't hello. It wasn't my name. It was, "Get out. You were never invited." The room froze. Plates stopped clinking. Breaths stopped moving. And in that second, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just dinner. This was an execution. 6 years of marriage, loyalty, silence, sacrifice, and he was erasing me with one sentence. But what he didn't know, what no one in that room was ready for, was that I didn't come to beg for a seat at the table. I came to flip it over. And the moment I stepped forward instead of leaving, everything in that house began to break. My father-in-law screamed, "You bastard! Why did you come here? We didn't invite you. You're not part of this family. Get lost!" The word bastard didn't echo. It landed, heavy, final, like a plate smashing on tile and nobody bending down to clean it up. The dining room smelled like overcooked roast and lemon cleaner. His veins bulged as he pointed at the door, his finger shaking like it had a mind of its own. No one defended me. My wife's cousin stared into her plate like it might rescue her. Her mother straightened a napkin she didn't need to touch. No one even said my name. I'm Lucas Harper. I've been married to his daughter for 6 years. 6 birthdays, 6 Christmas mornings. 6 years of learning how to stay quiet in rooms where I was never fully welcome. And the part that hurt the most? I hadn't even sat down yet. My coat was still on. He stopped me before I could pretend I belonged. My flaw is simple. I hate conflict. I swallow words until they rot inside my chest. I tell myself silence is maturity, when really it's fear wearing a suit. That night, my chest burned with everything I never said. My wife stood beside me, her hand hovering near mine, but not touching, not rejection. Not love either, just hesitation. Fear kept her still. Or loyalty, I still don't know. I looked at the door he was pointing at, then at the family photos lining the wall. Birthdays, weddings, smiles I'd paid for with gifts, effort, patience. And instead of leaving, I stepped forward. I unbuttoned my coat and calmly said, "Then I guess it's time you hear why I came." The room didn't move, but the air did. It tightened. My father-in-law's jaw flexed like he was chewing something bitter he couldn't spit out. "What could you possibly have to say?" he snapped. Every eye finally lifted toward me. My palms were wet. I wiped them on my coat without thinking, another bad habit. Always cleaning discomfort instead of confronting it. "I came," I said, surprised by my own steady voice, "because you asked my wife to come alone." My wife flinched, and in that tiny movement, I knew everything had already started to change. Her mother inhaled sharply. "Lucas, this isn't the time." "No," I said, turning to her for the first time, "it is." I noticed the table. 8 chairs, but only 7 pulled out. An empty place setting sat untouched. A quiet confirmation. I hadn't imagined the exclusion. My father-in-law laughed, short, humorless. "You don't get to decide when things happen in this house." "You're right," I nodded. "You don't." I reached into my inner coat pocket. The room leaned forward, expecting drama, confrontation, maybe a demand. Instead, I placed a folded envelope beside his plate. It made a soft thud, paper on wood. A quiet sound, but it echoed louder than any shout he'd thrown. "What is this?" he asked, voice quieter now. "Something you asked for," I said, "just not from me directly." My wife finally reached for my hand. Her fingers were cold. That scared me more than his yelling ever could. He slid the envelope open with a single finger, as if it might bite him. Inside, a single page, no letterhead, no legal jargon, just facts, plain, unflinching. Line by line, I watched his confidence leak away. His shoulders slumped slightly. Not much, but enough to see him shrink in a way I had never witnessed. Her mother leaned over his shoulder. "What is it?" she whispered. "Nothing," he said too quickly. That was a lie. Everyone knew it. 6 months earlier, he had come to me quietly, asking for help. The family would never know. I agreed, one condition, transparency. And now the paper in his hand proved it. I didn't come to embarrass him. I came because he told my wife I wasn't family. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. Families don't hide debts from each other. His knuckles went white around the paper. And then he did something I never expected. He looked at my wife and said, "Go to the kitchen." My wife didn't move right away. She looked at me first, searching my face like she needed permission she shouldn't have to ask. That tiny movement cracked something inside me. "I'm staying," she said quietly. Her father's head snapped toward her. "This doesn't concern you." "It concerns my marriage," she replied, her voice shaking but firm. She didn't step back. I loved her for that. I hated myself for needing her courage to steady my own. The kitchen light buzzed softly behind her, fluorescent and harsh. The room felt smaller, tighter. No one sat, no one breathed easily. Even the clock on the wall sounded too loud. He stood and pushed his chair in with unnecessary force. "You think a piece of paper gives you power here?" "No," I said. "I think pretending I don't exist gave you comfort." That landed harder than I meant to. I saw it in his eyes, offense mixed with something closer to shame. He wasn't used to being named. "You've always been sensitive," he said, turning to my wife. "Your wife fills your head." That was my flaw again. My instinct was to soften it, to step in, to protect her from his words. I didn't. I stayed silent. She straightened her shoulders. "You never asked him about himself," she said. "Not once. You just decided who he was." Her father scoffed. The voice lacked heat now. The house had been built on blood and fear, but I'd also paid for it too, quietly, with borrowed money. Her mother's whisper cut through the tension. "Is that true?" He didn't answer, and that silence was confession enough. Then it hit me this wasn't about being kicked out. It was about being seen. Finally, someone was being seen. He slumped back into his chair slowly, like gravity remembered him for the first time. The creak under his weight sounded louder than any shout he'd thrown. "Who else knows?" he asked. Not defiance, not anger. Calculation. "Just me," I said, "and the bank." Her mother sank back into her chair, pressing her fingers to her lips. "You said everything was fine," she whispered. He stared at the roast, cold now, at the envelope as if it had teeth. "I handled it," he muttered. "You delayed it," I corrected. "There's a difference." Calmness settled over me, deliberate, controlled. Part of me wanted to scream, to let all the swallowed years bleed out. But the quiet was stronger. The calm was the language he couldn't dismiss. "You told me to leave," I continued, "so I will." My wife turned toward me, eyes wide. "Lucas, not now," I said gently. "Not like that." I reached into my pocket again. This time, I placed my house keys on the table. Not theirs, mine. What? I'm done trying to earn a place I already paid for. His father's head shot up sharply. "Paid for how?" I met his eyes. "By saving this family when you couldn't." That was it. That was the crack in his armor. For the first time, his pride faltered. His mouth opened, then closed. No words came. Just shallow, uneven breaths. He looked small, not weak, but diminished, like a man standing on a platform he'd quietly sawed through himself. "You think you're some kind of hero?" he said finally. "No, I think I'm tired." That landed soft but deep. My wife let go of my hand and stepped forward. "Dad," she said, careful, guarded, already grieving something she hadn't named. "Is it true?" she asked. He didn't answer. That silence was confession enough. Her mother stood abruptly and walked to the sink. The faucet turned on too hard. Water splashed against steel. She stared at it as if it could wash away years of pretending. "You told me we were secure," she said, her back still turned. "I protected you," he snapped. "No, you controlled the story." A twist of guilt settled in me, not for speaking up, but for waiting so long. My flaw again, endurance mistaken for virtue.
He looked at me, eyes sharp with resentment. "You should have come to me." "I did," I said quietly, "6 years ago, and every year after. You just never listened." That truth holed in that room like a held breath. Then he asked the question he had avoided all night. "What do you want?" I didn't answer immediately. For the first time, I knew what I didn't want anymore. I looked at the untouched plates, at the family photos on the walls, proof of moments preserved, not relationships maintained. "I want my wife to never feel like she has to choose," I said, "and I want to stop shrinking myself to make this room comfortable." He scoffed, tired now. "Life doesn't work like that." "Maybe not," I replied, "but marriage has to." My wife slid her hand into mine this time, natural, effortless. That simple movement